Ready, aim, release! Hello! We are back. It is a Monday. I'm still Mickey, joined again by Carlo, and special guest this week, Danny, again, JahSper, back to join us. Carlo, how was your week? How did you...
I'm busy, tired. I actually do some work during the work days right now, which is mind-blowing. But I've found a little bit of time to do some song stuff around tournaments. I promised Danny that I'd have something done before Italian Nationals. He asked me about 4 or 5 weeks ago to make sure it was done, and then so obviously I did it for him one day before Italian Nationals.
Great. Did we get to know what it is, by the way, this secret thing?
It's some new TO features. TOs can now edit the points that a player has. It helps if there's user error and a person's score becomes incorrect. It also helps if you wanted to change a person's score because you didn't want to use the site's exact scoring. There is I fixed something else at the same time. Oh yeah, a big one actually, which took me ages. The site, when you do a challenge, it should no longer reset your list submissions when your opponent submits your list. You cannot imagine how long it took me to fix that small flicker, but it did. But that's just I couldn't find out why it was doing it.
Fair.
Tiny quality of life improvements, which took me a long time.
Classic. So, my week, really boring. I did some work. No one cares about my week. But also you'll notice I no longer have a chair behind me. I have a cupboard. I spent the last weekend basically moving furniture around because it's that time of year where moving furniture around is what your partner wants to do. It happens to all of us, I guess, right? But I don't know why. Anyway, Danny, how's your week been? I heard you've had some interesting time.
Yeah, we had. Hello, everybody, and it was amazing weekend. And I'm a little bit tired, as I was telling you guys, because I've slept kind of 15 hours in the last 3 days because we had the tournament on Saturday and then demo games on Sundays. It was very good weekend. Tiring as hell, but very nice weekend.
Mm-hmm. Cool. That's what we like to hear. Will
Also the
go.
Job on the website it helped out because we had kind of a problem with the score in the second and third match, and we could just fix it just manually, and it was amazing. So or sometimes it happened that a player 2 matches in only 1 match and he got double the points and everything else, but this time we could just fix it in 1 minute. It's fine.
Mm-hmm. What we like to hear.
I'm glad it all came together.
So
yes indeed.
I also made loads of other changes, so if something breaks on you guys, well, just tell me because I probably did break something.
Everyone says hello, by the way, in chat, so that's great. And we've even got an Italian joining us today, Ilu's Painting. So big shout out to the Italian scene. All right then. All right. So tell us, how did Italian Nationals go?
Yeah, well, it went really well. I mean, we started on Friday with the dinner all together. You know, the get all together dinner before the tournament, so we can also get to know better each other, not on a table, but just on a dinner table and not on a playing table. So it started really nice on Friday, and then the tournament went smoothly on Saturday. It was a very nice event. I am just I'm tired because I helped a lot Presidente, who was the TO for the tournament, but I took care of, of everything about communication. With Simon and also with other European TOs. And originally I had to be the TO of the tournament, but everybody wanted to play with me. So I kind of had to play, and I had to defend the title from last year. So Presidente told me, no, you just have to play. Too many people that want to play with you, so you have to. And so we did. I played, I won, and Presidente just was the referee for the day.
Yeah, that's cool. You played Targaryen at the end.
It was I played Targaryen. Yeah, you know, they are my favorite faction. So I played a little bit with something else during the last days, mostly because I wanted to know better some faction that I normally don't play with or against, and so I tried to change something in the last days, also to learn a little bit better some factions. At the end, I kept on playing with Targaryens.
Fair.
Still couldn't cut my beard.
I have a similar problem, but mine's called laziness. No, it's fantastic. It's obviously fantastic that that you got to play in the event. It's what I really like to hear is I really like to hear when players like meet up on the Friday night for food and things like that. I think a big aspect that's lost a lot of other games and just events in general is it is the community celebration first and foremost, and celebration of community is the most important thing we can have with the game. So it's great to hear that you all met up on the Friday for you know, food, drinks, whatever it might have been. Yeah, so I mean, it looks like the tournament, you know, in terms of rounds and everything, flew fairly well. You mentioned before you had a couple of people from outside of Italy coming down, and you said just before the episode started that the crown stayed in Italian hands. Just out of curiosity, did you see much of the Spanish and French contingent that were there? And did you feel like it wasn't an issue? It was just like they were just normal players coming to play games. There was no kind of animosity, no problems with language barriers, anything like that. I don't know.
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, these four guys, I had the pleasure to meet them in Santander, in the El Rey en el Norte tournament in Santander, and they were amazing there, and they were amazing here in Italy. It was a great experience in Santander, and as great as Santander, it was Saturday in Modena. And yeah, no animosity, no problems at all, and really nice people. So when you meet nice people, there cannot be any kind of problem, I think.
Yeah. Yes, it is good to hear. It's always worth asking, I find, because I think it just proves to the fact that it's not just like our group or your group or that guy's group are nice. It's like the whole community for A Song of Ice and Fire. I mean, we've said it before, we yet to meet people who we think are like problems or bad players. You know, any competitive game or any game can always bring players that are not the nicest to have to deal with. And I think realistically, nobody's encountered these players yet, really. Not massively, which is, you know, fantastic. So yeah, it's great. It's great. Now, I have a question. Right, and this is for me. Carlo will probably shout at me for this. There were 3 players at the end of the day who had 3. Well, there were 3 players in the final round, if you will, after the final round, who have gone undefeated. Yourself, obviously, going 4-0, and then Tauru and Viva Victorian, 2 very good players, highly ranked on stats, certainly. Who went undefeated. Now, of course, they both picked up a draw, and I believe the draw was against each other. So, do you? One of the things I was going to say, you obviously have draws in. Draws can happen. It is a thing. Do you settle draws in Italy just by victory points rather than points remaining on the table? Yeah.
Yes. This is kind of an issue for us because. first thing first, if you read the tournament sheet, the one saying how to manage a tournament, it doesn't say that you have to count the remaining points on the table. So that's first little issue about it.
Mhm.
And then some people are saying, okay, but what does remaining points on the table mean? NCUs, are they on the table or not? Because if you think about the fighting table, they are not, but they are still on the physical table. So this is kind of an issue. And then many people say, okay, but I don't want to win a match just because I have one single point more on the table more than my opponent.
Mhm.
So after thinking about all this kind of stuff, we always manage the draw with a draw. So if you make the same victory points, we never count the remaining points on the table.
Mhm.
Make the same victory points, which can be 10 or plus points at the end of the game, or if the time finished and you are kind of 8-8 or 7-7, just draw, and that's a tie.
Mhm.
And I also think that in these kind of tournaments, it can help to have at the end just one winner, like it was on Saturdays. Because if they didn't draw against each other, we were gonna finish the tournament with 2 people with the full score, and then it was just up to the secondary points.
Mhm.
But in this case, you can finish at the same level, but you have one more variability to the game, and I don't see why there cannot be a draw. Especially in this very I mean, when we have many people playing, we were 25 people, and we only couldn't do 4 games because it was one day event.
Yeah.
You know, if you are more than 16, you just play 4 games. You can have more than 1 people with 4 wins at the end of the tournament, and then it's just up to the secondary points.
Mm.
Draws, it's a little bit harder to do that. It can happen, as it happened on Saturday, that 2 very good players play against each other and they draw, and so the final ranking is different. It's not with 2 people with the full 4 victories at the end.
Mhm.
Interesting because I agree with it or disagree with it. The system that they have laid out, it results in, I think, the numbers, the stats that kind of come out of it as across the site in general, draws make up like 1% of all results. Like only a 1 in 100 games, if you follow the full CMON explanation that you go to points on table. It's interesting that you discussed that you think that there's kind of ambiguity there, whereas I've never particularly met anybody who felt that it wasn't like pretty concrete the way it's decided. And yet, weirdly enough, I recently believe that I've changed my opinion on the way it's decided, which is an aside, which is I no longer believe that assassinated attachments count their points because their points are rolled into the unit. Anyway, that's a whole different thing. It would have changed the LGT in an entirely large way. We'll try not to get into that discussion, but anyway, it's interesting that the draws, they make up about 1% of everything, right? 1 in 100 games. Draws are incredibly rare, whether you agree with the way that the tiebreaker is determined. It has huge ramifications on game modes like Fire and Blood that don't really promote people to engage, except that there is this tiebreaker that often one person will just win in a 0-0 draw, and that does have a positive or negative, depending on your mindset, kind of effect to force one person to engage, and the other person then becomes like a defender. Yeah, I am always interested in the results from the tournaments that you run, and I find that you are posting draws at maybe something like 10% of all games, you know, which isn't that surprising when you consider that like victory point margins can be really close. And if we just take away all secondary tiebreakers off of the back of that and go to full victory points, you know, that it's not too hard for us both to have the same victory points on the table. So I think that it's having an interesting impact upon your events, and I don't think it's wrong. I think that as long as your whole community is happy and on board with the way that that is played out, and that everybody's aware of that going into the game. Obviously, the only thing you don't want is one person sitting there thinking, "Oh well, all I need to do is like get the same number of victory points, and then I'll win because of this tiebreaker." As long as everybody's aware that that is a draw, then I don't think that draws actually have any problem at all in the game, and I think that they can have a big positive impact. It's just interesting how common they are in your events with that differing non-use of the tiebreaker, and how incredibly rare and therefore like how almost non-existent draws are in the CMON competitive doc.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely is interesting. Certainly seeing the comparison. But you know, if it works for the community and people are happy with it, then you know, don't stop doing it. So it's about really, isn't it? It's about whatever your community's happy with.
Yeah, you know, the last big tournament before this one was the one in Santander, and two people had a draw, maybe even more than the one game. But I remember one game with Mark Bell, and we were talking together, and he said, "Yeah, I lost because I just had 1 point less than my opponent on the table." That sounded pretty bad for him, you know. And I agree with him that if you have to lose, or even if you have to win, because at the end it's just a minor victory, just because you have 1 single point more than your opponent on the table. I think it's a silly rule. Also, due to the fact that it's not 100% accurate, because on the rule books say one thing and on the tournament sheets it says another thing. Kind of a doubt. There's kind of a doubt there, so we managed to.
I'm really interested. Without going off on a whole tangent, what do you think the doubt is? Because I've never met anybody who believed there was doubt.
If you remember the kind of the tournament paper, how to manage a tournament, it says that at the end of the game, if you don't have a natural winner, and natural winner means wiped out 10 points or more points than your opponent at the end of the 6th round or at the end of the time limit. You have the same. You have to count the points. If you have the same amount of points, it's a draw. It doesn't say you count the remaining points on the table. It does say so on the rule book, on the main rule book. I think that there can be a little doubt there.
Interesting. Yeah. No, I do think that people don't necessarily read the rule books closely enough, you know, and sometimes people assume a rule. They start to read a rule and they know that they've read something similar elsewhere, and so they just assume that it's the same thing. But I'd never known or believed or thought that there was any difference in those wordings. I'll have to have a look at it myself and see what implications it has. Like I say, you know, my own opinion on it. If you read really closely into the rules, I think that somewhere in the rulebook it states that a unit comprises of its cost plus its attachments, and that it can be very, very definitely argued that a unit's attachment is part of its own cost, and that if the attachment dies, the unit is still worth the same price that it originally cost with the attachment. It's the unit dying that matters, which is definitely a change to the way I used to interpret it. Yeah, you know, like I'm always interested in people's differing opinions of the rules, because there is a huge amount of the Mandela effect, as they call it. You know, like a group think where everybody has been kind of convinced that they've read a rule and that it means a certain thing, but nobody's actually gone back to look at it with a critical eye and actually check, like, does it really say that, or did I just guess that it said that because you told me it said that? And then when I went to read it, it sounded about right, so I just went with it. But yeah, so I always love it when people do actually challenge the reality of what I think the rules are, and say, no, did you actually read that? Because I don't think that's right. So, you know, I think huge amounts of our problems can be fixed by just reading the rules.
That whole discussion.
You know, there
Oh my god.
are still some people, I mean, in my club, and I think I'm sure all around the world, that they have never ever read the rulebook. They just go by, okay, that player told me that, and he's a good player, so I trust him. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that
Yeah.
whole attachment thing that Carlo was talking about there has just made me like just cry in so many ways about moving attachments around, or like bringing attachments back from the dead, which is possible. And it's like, does it actually change the value of the unit or not? And then it goes into the whole dark stream of like, if your commander dies and you bring your commander back, is that your commander still? Because if it is, then that means it scores extra points in certain game modes, but it doesn't in others. You know, it's a mess. So yeah.
also think about here we stand, we
Yeah.
take the black.
Yeah,
If you use take the black and you take a 3-point attachment, does it count
Mhm.
for you or for your opponent on here we stand? You didn't pay for him. You have him on the unit, so yeah, it opens some different kind of possibility of interpretation.
I'd love that. You took the black 2 of my watch captains. I now control that zone. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Rule from when?
Yeah.
Oh god, it would be nice to have some FAQs, wouldn't it? Anyway, yeah, no, fantastic. Event itself, let's have a look at the statistical breakdown. Obviously, you running Targaryen, going undefeated, did help prop the Targaryen win rate up a little bit. But Targaryens overall, your games excluded, would have gone 50%. Your games included had a 67% win rate overall, which is still one of the better ones, regardless of which side you take. Only really Baratheon's, Night's Watch, and Stark had the same number of games. Now, I mean, let's take away the other ones for a moment, and let's look at the Night's Watch, and specifically Stark win rate. The Stark win rate down at a lowly 21%. That is a sad day to be a Stark player. 3 wins out of 14 games, and all of them by Great John Umber. Every single game.
You did have quite an extreme faction kind of entry. No Lannisters, no neutrals at all. But you know, not that odder thing at 25 players. But you know, it's a really large weighting towards effectively 4 factions of Barras, Targs, Stark, Night's Watch. You know, obviously, it's always going to be dependent upon individual players' choice, but do you find that they are the factions that you see incredibly regularly when you play locally? Do you think that they are like a representation of what your club and Italy are playing right now, or do you think that it just so happened that people congregated in that direction for this event?
You know, there were at least 3 people that they usually play Lannister. A couple of them they couldn't play, and another one he decided to go with Stark. And one of the most famous player with Lannister in Italy is Presidente, who was the TO for the day. So if he would have played, he would have played with Lannister 100%.
Yeah.
But it was kind of, it wasn't very good at not having any Lannister at the tournament, and we also had only one free folk player. And he was from our club, so just one player from our club with free folk, and nobody else in Italy wanted to play free folk. And I honestly don't know why, because I think they are pretty strong. I mean, they are not. I understand now Lannister, they have some problems now, and I get it. Free folk, I think they are a good faction at the moment, but nobody wanted to play free folk apparently. And I didn't expect that. The last little tournament we had in our club, which was 3 weeks ago, I went with free folk, mainly because I don't meet many free folk players in Italy. So I wanted to play with them just to understand them a little bit better, and even because I didn't know if I could meet Free Folk player during the tournament, and I didn't feel ready to play against Free Folk. So we can say no neutral, which is okay. No Lannister, which is, I don't think it's okay for a good way to have a tournament and for a good community. Only one Free Folk, so we just have our Targaryen, Free Folk, Targaryen, Nightwatch, Stark, and Greyjoy. These 4 factions.
Baratheons as well, large.
And Baratheon, yeah, sorry, Baratheon,
Yeah.
Baratheon, yes, Baratheon.
A few Greyjoys,
only 2 players.
Big,
just
big
2 players with Greyjoys.
I mean,
which I think is pretty good for Baratheon. Last year, last national tournaments in Italy, there were no Baratheon at all.
Yeah,
Here
I mean,
there were 5 or 6.
Baratheons really have seen a massive resurgence, I think. Not just here. We'll go into some other events that have happened this weekend as well, and you'll see Baratheons consistently having quite a big chunk of that pie, if you will. I think that Baratheon fanboy train, like, it's come to rest. It's come to town. It's here to stay. They're pretty good right now, right? So at least, people think they are. Okay, interesting. I mean,
from the Simon side, did you receive anything particularly special from them to do with Italian nationals, to do with your prize support? Have you come away with any trophy that they provided, or how was the support from that side?
Yeah, it was great. They also had an article on their web page, and they sent us a lot of prizes with starter boxes and unit boxes.
No Martells,
and Martells, no. Yeah, but many a huge support with prizes. And we also had something more because we wanted to have every single player. They could go home with a box. So we had at the end everyone with a box and with some other small trophies like welcome pack for everybody, which was kind of an L, so you can use to sign where your unit is. You can move it and then okay, just go back and you know exactly where the unit was.
Yeah.
And something else, so everybody went home with a prize, because everybody would be happy about it. Yeah, they sent us a great support.
That's good. I've actually got a question in chat for you, Danny. Were the winners, so yourself, I guess in this case, it's different, I guess. Were your details asked for to be passed along to Simon for the Worlds event? Do you know?
Yeah, we will do that. We were supposed to do it today, but we couldn't. And we are going to send a full report to Simon with some pictures, with the score details, which send just the link from Stats. And we will send them all the data, and then we will see. Because they told us that there will be a World Cup this year, but we know nothing else. And
well, I really look forward to reading the announcement of your invite, and hope to see that as soon as possible.
Yeah, me too, because I am excited, but I know nothing about it, so I don't know where, when, how. But that would be great, but know nothing about it for now.
Tell me about Italian Nationals 2023. Are you hoping bigger and more entrants in 2 days, or are you thinking that that you're very comfortable at this kind of size and that you would expect it to be a similar kind of 32-player event, possibly just across the one day.
Yeah, the last 2 years they weren't very good for playing in real life, right? For COVID, we all know that. And so the tournament last year was just 13 people, but then one people couldn't really play, so it was actually a 12-person event. Here we double it. If you ask me, I want to double it next year, but I am not overconfident about it. I would love to. I would love to see the Italian community grow together and see many people, and maybe also have a 2-day tournament next year.
Yeah,
I think that if you want to have a 2-day tournament, you got to be at least 50 people. If you are kind of 25 people, yeah, you can play more than 4 games, but it's kind of silly having 6 games with 25 people playing. So I hope to make it bigger next year. Because,
sold out.
Sorry?
So
uh,
I ran a 6-round event with 24 people last week.
No. I mean,
I'm joking.
Fine.
I think that I really hope that you can expand beyond the 32, and I would really look forward to you hopefully announcing soon and building the hype and I'm sure, hopefully, Simon might make some kind of announcement for the World Championships, and I'm sure that will, bring even more renewed interest in these events that can be classified as national events, and that this can become a stepping stone to like a really well structured competitive community, right? Like a really well structured competitive kind of gateway to bigger and better events, and that will just bring the prestige that like really is deserved of any national champion, any national championship, any kind of event that is the biggest in its country. And I think that will really help to bring the international communities together. I'm sure you'll get more interest again from other European players, and yeah, I let me know as soon as possible, and I will help to try and make Italian nationals bigger and better next year, and we'll try and get that 50.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This year we really wanted to go to 32 players, but we had to stop to 25 because many people at the end they decided not to show up. I mean, not to enroll actually. And so me and my club, all the persons, although I'm the president mainly. We spent a lot of time and sometimes even some money because we did everything for free. We didn't earn anything. It was just for the good of the community. Just for fun. But better than anyone else, I think, because with the website, I think you work a lot on it, and so it's just for the well-being of the community. And at the end, we were a little bit sad that we couldn't hit 32 players. And we couldn't do that, but there are many players in Italy that they didn't want to take part in the tournament.
Okay.
Many different reasons. Most of them are quite silly, but I don't want to talk about it. But we hope to make it maybe even bigger next year. And of course.
Do you find that that's individuals, or do you believe that there are like whole gaming clubs, like whole cities worth of clubs of like groups of players who are like aren't ready to kind of come to an event of this size, aren't ready to participate in the more national kind of community, or do you find it's just individual players who have XYZ reason why they can't make it, or don't want to come to this event?
Say both, but mainly I know for sure that there are at least 3 communities in Italy, in 3 different cities, and nobody from these 3 cities showed up. Nobody enrolled. Different reasons, which is a long discussion, and I don't want to bore you right now because it's something more of Italian interest rather than international interest. But for sure there might be at least 12 active players that didn't want to join the tournament.
Yeah. No, I do think it's very, very interesting. The discussion in general about how to improve the engagement in the competitive side. I think that we've been very lucky, and we always continue to try and increase the involvement in the London Grand Tournament. We've genuinely had people turn up to the London Grand Tournament and are coming again next year. Who it's the first tournament they've ever been to. This isn't only people looking to come to this event to win, looking to use it as a stepping stone, or to like really show how good they are at the game. There are people looking to come to learn the game. Practically, they've barely played any. But there are always going to be more. There are always going to be more players who we haven't reached. There are stores and communities and clubs of who are more isolated, less involved in the wider UK scene. And it's such an interesting question about like what can we do to bring them in? What are their fears around not wanting to participate? And you very much want to avoid creating like a hyper competitive, hyper win at all costs kind of environment, which does scare off new people. That would be such a drain on the future of the game, because growth is always going to come from getting as many people involved as possible and making as many people as possible feel welcome. So it's always a thought on my mind, and always interesting to hear the perspectives from different communities and what they're struggling with. I think it's a struggle that the game will always have. Every game will have, if it's kind of presented in any kind of competitive manner, that there will be those who don't enjoy that part or only go for that part, and it's always going to be a balance that we have to strike.
Yeah, this can be a problem for some new players. But we had a player from our club. He has been playing for 6 months, more or less. And of course, if you are a new player, you normally maybe you cannot try and win national events, right? Normally, but it's not impossible. And I told him, don't worry about it, because you will play the first game, which is random, and he played with me, so bad luck for him. But as I said, after that, you are supposed to meet people more or less on your same level. Yeah. Even you don't necessarily have to go to a tournament, have to win it. You just can go there and enjoy it. And at the end, the point is, doesn't matter how many players there are, but only one can win. So you go there thinking about, okay, I have to go there and win. If I don't win, it's pointless. I think you are not on the right spot on your mind with the tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. If a 32-player tournament is 32 players who all are only there to win, and 32 players who believe they're going to win and will be disappointed with anything but a win, then one person's going to go home happy and 31 people are going to go home unhappy. Whereas if we just have 32 players who just want to play and want to play games that are close and want to play games against people who are hopefully challenge them and are equal skill with them, or at least close to them, then that's when the tournament really takes on its best kind of appeal and really helps. That's where Swiss Draw is at its best. There's a reason why Swiss Draw is used. It should hopefully bring players into groupings with players similar to themselves, and get games to be closer and closer and closer. That said, I mean, I did take a look. You took 4 crushing wins in the event. None of them seem particularly close. Any particular game that you felt that you were pushed hardest, closest to the edge, or was it all plain sailing all throughout?
Yeah, the first one was with Stark, and it was with this player from my club, and I mean, we played together a few games, and I knew his style, so it doesn't look like that, but it was quite a tight game. And also the second one with Nightwatch, he played well, but he probably had a couple of mistakes with one maneuver, and one he didn't heal Og with the conscript, I could kill him. And after losing one unit in a very tight game, it can go really bad.
Yeah, I mean, a
And
crushing victory in terms of victory points doesn't always describe the story of the event, the story of the game, right? The game can snowball incredibly quickly. I know personally, I've played games where it felt like it went down to a single dice roll, but the final result is a crushing win because that dice roll goes my way, and then everything takes off from that point.
yeah, that's true. That can happen. And then it was round three with On and Ready, which is my less likable game mode. I really don't like On and Ready. I feel it to be a little bit boring. So I wasn't really happy about it. And I had to play with Abarosh, with Baraton. He also is from my club and he's a very skilled player, very, very good. But I kind of mind tricked him and he chose the wrong list. we are we are still joking about it because I kind of Jedi tricked him. I say, okay, you don't want to play that list. And
A true champion has more than just what he does on the table, doesn't he, JahSper? Me and you both know that.
yeah. Because I had these two lists, and one was the same list I played with in Santander with Drogo and 3 cavalry units plus Jorah, 3 NCUs, and the other one was 9-ish.
An interesting 9 activation list, double Unsullied Officer. Yeah, I took a look. Quite extreme.
And Abarash, he was sure, 100% sure, I was gonna play this list, the one with 9 activations. But because okay, we have objectives, 5 objectives, so you have more infantries that maybe they can hold the objective better. And then I said, yeah, no way, I'm gonna play the cavalry, the other one. And he was a little bit, I don't know, maybe a little bit mind tricked by me because he was sure about the other list.
That's what it's about.
How did you feel about your 2 lists? Did you use them? Did you use them both? Obviously, they both performed well when you used them. But did you feel that one was kind of like a specialist list, or you just? It's interesting to take double Drogo, but they are very different in style. One is 9 activation. It's got 2 Unsullied captains in there, so you're looking heavily onto Relentless. Do you feel that they have specific matchups in your mind, or do they have specific game modes in your mind? What was the thinking behind that list pairing?
Yeah, both of that, because when I tried these 2 lists together, I wanted to have 1 7 activation list and another one. I didn't want to have 2 7 activation lists. I wanted to have one with 7 and one with a higher count, so 8 or maybe 9. I thought the 9 might work better with some factions, especially Free Folk. But then only 1 Free Folk showed up. And so yeah, the cavalry list, the one with 3 cavalries and Jorah, is kind of my main one. I play that a lot, and some people also took inspiration by it, and they are playing something like a different version of it. And I try to think about something different, and I wanted to go with 2 Unsullied officers, and then I also wanted to have veterans and Jorah, so that was it. And actually Khal Drogo was the last choice because I couldn't feel anybody else but him, because I don't have any other cavalry commander in faction except Jorah. But if you play Jorah as a solo unit, you don't have it as a commander.
Absolutely.
So that's why I think about it. And then also I didn't want to play any dragons. You know, there are many people, maybe many people in Italy thinking that Drogo and dragons are broken, are OP. So I in 4 games on Saturday, I have never expert duelist anybody. Never. Always went for the wound.
Which is
never killed 1 single attachment. Never.
See,
tried.
I'm of the opinion that that's probably better. Like, I actually think that the expert duelist thing to kill an attachment is, on the most part, a little bit more
Trap.
meme. Yeah, it's a trap. There are some
Trap.
attachments where it's probably worth it. Like, if you really want to kill a watch captain or an unsullied officer, then yeah, okay, that's value. And sometimes against hardened, yeah, okay, that's value. But like an auto wound on a hardened unit when you've got bolt and flayed men with a -3 panic test with +1, like that's pretty good. So yeah, I think it's a bit of a trap.
All happened to me 1/3 of the time that when you fail the killing,
Mhm.
opponent 99% of the time he will have only the attachment left on the unit. So I would say
Yeah,
I had just the wound, the unit was gone. So
Yeah.
always. So, of course, this was an event of a size which had an invite for the London Grand Tournament Invitational on the Friday. You had already qualified through your performance in El Tourney and Not. Yeah, in any one of your previous tournament winning victories, I believe you qualified from Spain, right? Was actually or had you already qualified? You qualified from an Italian event, and then you went to Spain and you won. Anyway, is there a tournament this guy can't win? There's a reason. There's a reason why JahSper will be there. Are you gonna? Can we all infer? We almost definitely intend to see you playing Targaryens. That's still a guarded secret.
Yeah, I cannot say that 100% certainty, but I think so because it's more of a sentimental thing.
Yeah.
Last time we talked together, I told you guys that I started just in a random way with the tournament, and they were an odd number, and I add up just to make the pairing go better. And I got second with starter set of Targaryens and maybe one flayed man just to hit 40 points. And then Presidente just make this gift to me. Okay, you can start playing now. And I think, I mean, he's kind of my uncle, you know. And so I think he's pretty happy about that day of 2 years ago. And I said, okay, yeah, come on, you can play.
Targaryens, they hold a special place in your heart. Yeah, they
yes,
will always
they
be.
do.
Yeah,
they do. So,
but from Italian nationals, Taro Bartolucci, is that
Bartolucci?
Have I butchered his name? You want to pronounce?
Yeah, actually, he wrote it. He wrote it in a bad way. He wrote the family name in the place of his name.
I see.
Bartolucci is his family name, and if you check, you will see that Presidente also is Claudio, and there is another player called Francesco Bartolucci, and they are father and 2 sons.
I see. That is that's much more family connection than I realized. But Taro will also be coming to the Invitational, hopefully, filling out a second Italian spot. I know he's often been what we would say in the UK is always the bridesmaid, never the bride. You always taking second place to yourself. But I'm glad he managed to take the spot this time.
Yeah, he was extremely happy because he really wanted to go to the Invitationals.
That's awesome.
When he got second, he said, okay, but maybe I can take your place. And I said, it's not my decision. I can ask Carlo. And then you wrote me first. And I told him, okay, I didn't ask him. He told me. And it was just the mind blew up and said, okay, I'm going to roll immediately. And after 5 minutes, he got in because he really wanted it. He really, really wanted it.
I'm glad. The discussion last week. What can the site do? Is hopefully the one small thing we can do is make people's day by inviting them to these kind of events and bringing the best players together and recognizing smaller communities like your own that are not so heavily present online. It's very, very. I find your events so interesting because you guys don't play regularly online like a lot of the other Europeans do. When you enter events, when you travel for events, and when you run events yourselves and international people come to play in your events, it's one of the few times that we get to see the interaction about how strong your local community is, how strong your players are versus the other kind of European players who are slightly, not always, but slightly more well known online. We kind of understand where they fit into kind of like the scene, as it were. And so far, you yourself and your club have never disappointed, which is quite surprising because, I've always maintained myself, that like nearly all the best players are online. If you want to find really good players, they are online, but you're really proving that wrong. And your club has done incredibly well at this event, and along with the other big Italian club too, Viva Victorian and Theo taking third and fourth. Both clubs well represented, but the Italians as a whole, not being ousted by a small collection of international travelers who are often flying in and stealing the top spots from a lot of tournaments that you see that happen. Our own LGT top spot stolen by one of just 2 Polish players who came across. You went over to Spain and took the win there. International travelers can often come away with the top spot, but not today. You managed as a club and as a nation to hold strong to your own your own trophy and your own nationals.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, you're right, because if people don't play with each other, you can never know how strong or bad they are. And but in Italy, there are maybe just 1 or 2 people playing online on TTS, and so these are the events when we can play against each other. And
Yeah.
as you know, I'm coming to London for the LGT, and we're gonna be there and to Santander, and we are planning to go to France, to Bordeaux, nationals there. And Philippe Tituspulu was here, and so we talk about it, and we also had a small video which will be online in a few days, I think. And so we are going to France, and this is last day news. We are thinking about going to Germany for the events in Germany.
Oh, that's awesome.
Brilliant.
That is awesome.
We don't know about that because it's not very easy to get in Hanover, where the tournament will take place, and also many of us, we will not have a free week in that period. So we are thinking about it, but we would love to. And then we will see. Maybe even another tournament in Spain, which something about it, but nothing official yet. But we'll probably go there too. I mean, we like to do that, and there is also, I was telling you about the Bartolucci's family, and we also have First Lady, which is the only woman in the tournament, and obviously First Lady is the wife of Presidente, so they are the whole family.
I had taken a guess.
And
Italian sharks coming to a national tournament near you very soon. Anybody across Europe, be aware that the Italians are coming to steal your trophies and leave you with nothing.
Yeah. And yesterday she was saying, okay, I'm gonna check my free period from work according to tournaments. So
that's great. Fantastic. Honestly, fantastic. I'm really glad to hear you're making more journeys as well, potentially. That is fantastic.
We hope so.
Yeah, I think attending these international events is certainly something that Carlo has taken some serious consideration to, and certainly I've been trying to look at schedules and things to see how I can work some things out as well. Because if you can make the time, I think it's worth it. But I understand, costs and things like that can rack up quite quickly.
Yeah.
But it's do what you can, isn't it, in these kind of situations? So we wouldn't be able to talk about an event if we didn't have something for Carlo to look at. He's not just all a numbers man. He does like looking at some painted stuff. He tells me. I don't know why he likes looking at painted stuff. But yeah, so was this the best painted army? This the Greyjoys here?
Yes. Yes, it was.
That is.
Yeah, and there were
nice.
There were 2 armies that they were competing for the best painted army, and this one it got the longer stick, and it was this is V for Victorious army.
Ah, V for Victorian. He's not just a good player; he's also a good painter. Yeah,
He's a
no,
very good painter. Yes.
these are really nice. I like the water effect on the base, but also the God forbid the addition of rocks on the base, but without having to put guys on the rocks. So they haven't got that added height. So hopefully Carlo's not driving himself mental there by being like, "Oh, they're too tall." So yeah,
No, rocks are fine. Rocks are fine.
as long as they're not stood on them.
So long as the model remains at model height.
Oh dear. Yeah,
No,
they.
it looks like a really
nice.
beautiful paint scheme, really consistent, really nice basing, really top stuff. Yeah.
Love it. And this was the Starks, right? That was the other one up for positioning.
Yeah.
Oh
This
god.
one is. It was the other one. This one is Ilu's painting one.
Mhm.
And yeah, this was another very good one. And you can see on the right a weird version of Taiko.
Yeah, with a.
Was,
I did
this
wonder who
was
that
kind
was.
of a. And this was kind of a promo we gave to all the participants in the national events, but he got it earlier, so he could paint and show to everybody else. Obviously, he also had the original one, so he couldn't play without it, but he went with him. And
that's nice.
I've definitely seen that that Hedge Knight before, and his the one in the Stark Outriders, and his unique heraldry on his shield. That's I've definitely seen that pop up on Facebook or Discord. It's really lovely army to see it all laid out in front.
The green Hedge Knight with the mermaid shield is amazing. That is.
it's all freehand.
I'm done.
Yeah, impressive.
I'll throw these paintbrushes away now.
Yeah, he's a very good painter, but the thing that I envy the most of him is his freehand. He can do some amazing job with freehand. And I mean, I am a normal painter. I can paint well, but nothing exceptional. But I can't do anything as freehand. I'm very bad at drawing, so I can't do anything freehand, and I really envy his skill on freehand. It's amazing, the mermaid and also some other stuff. But you can find this model on Facebook. He posted a lot of pictures on Facebook, so if you want to check it, go for it, because freehand is an amazing job.
Yeah, I mean his army as a whole is phenomenal, fantastic. It's great to see it. As much as I probably don't paint enough, it is fantastic to see people who put real time and effort into the painting and produce armies like this, because it's just. I think it's a part of like the hobby aspect, which sometimes people talk about it a lot with the likes of Games Workshop and things like that, doing a lot of spotlights on it. But it's a big part of the hobby, which I think people can spend a lot of time on and get some really nice results that are, you can sit back and you can be proud of what you've done afterwards. I don't really know if there's a word for it really, but just knowing that you've produced something. Don't get me wrong, winning a tournament is nice. Coming second, third, whatever, doing well in a tournament is nice. But in the end of the day, being able to actually have a physical product at the end of this thing, and you know that you've put your skill and effort into painting that, it is a lovely thing to see. And that is amazing.
I'm always pleased with myself when I finish a model. Like I'm always happy that is time well spent. If I spend that time playing an online card game instead, when I come away at the end, I don't have any sense of achievement. I don't have any sense of having done something useful, any real skill learned or improved or mastered, or being left with something that I'm proud of. Whereas when I paint miniatures, I'm always proud that I've painted an army, proud that I have this thing forevermore. And that is forevermore. I never sell anything. If I've painted it, it's never ever going away. It just ends up joining the pile of things that I no longer use. But yeah, and I really tell anybody and everybody that if you just start, then you will be happy and proud with what you can do, and you will always improve. We're all trying to improve, and painting is just one of many things about the game to master.
Yeah, there are some games that you're obliged. It's compulsory to paint all the army in order to play. This is not the case for Song of Ice and Fire right now. But I think that if you go to a tournament and you have a full painted army, even if it is a tabletop quality, okay, you don't need to have something amazing like these two armies we have seen. But if you have the whole painted army, the feeling is completely different.
Yeah.
Besides these two armies, before Victarions, he got third, and Franco, Ilus Avatar, he won the best general trophy, and the best general was for the person who made the biggest number of unit destruction points.
I see. At most
We decided to we decided to give players even another way to earn like a very good trophy and a cup, obviously. Even if at the end he got 10th, I think, or 9th in the final ranking, but won a very important trophy because he was the most aggressive player. This is also, I think, very nice for medium to big tournaments to give people different way to play the game, and also they can win. Many people can win different kind of things. So obviously we had the best general in factions, which also was about unit destructions, out for the victory points. But we just had a memento plague for them, nothing else. But the best general went home with a big prize. I mean, maybe as big as mine, I think. Yeah. So it was really good. So
worth playing for, worth killing for.
Sorry.
Worth killing for. Worth going for. Yeah.
Yes. But if you are a good painter, like before Victarion and Ilus Avatar, you might be also a good player too.
Yeah.
One thing I'll add to all of that is you know, I get it a lot. I'm afraid to pick up a model most of the time and start painting because I feel like I'm just going to ruin it as soon as I pick it up. And you know, every time I'm like, right, I'm just going to have to do it, and I sit down, and for the first 5 minutes I'm like, God, this is terrible. But then like 20 minutes, half an hour later, you'd be like, actually no, this is fine. This is all going to end up fine. It's going to look great. Just do it. Just pick up the paintbrush. Pick up the paint.
It can be hard. You have to have faith. You have to have faith in the end result. Models, I find they go down before they go up. And when you're just starting to put a few colors on and a few layers, and maybe it's a bit messy, maybe you just washed it, or you haven't washed it yet, and it hasn't got any depth, or it hasn't got any kind of like layering to the colors or anything to bring it together. You know, there are times when it looks worse than the unpainted state, but once you get there, once you finish it, it always starts to come together, especially once they're all together on the table and they look somewhat cohesive. I think that's what really unifies everything. You know, sporadic painting is can be nice in parts, but once you have a fully painted army, the whole thing just really pops, really comes together. And I think that basing as well is such a large part of that. It's such an underappreciated part of that good bases can really just finalize the army and tie together models that look different, models that you know, are painted different. They might even have different color schemes on, but you know, we have here the Mermaid Knight in amongst the Flayed Men. Very different models from totally different kits, painted in entirely different colors, but a consistent basing just like brings them together, ties them together, and makes the whole thing look like it was meant to be.
I have to say as well, definitely don't take a break just after you started painting when you're like half an hour to an hour in on a particularly important model and you go for a quick piss or something like that, because when you come back, you're walking back and you're looking at it from a distance and go, Jesus, that's awful. And then you sit down and everything's fine again. But yeah, right. Anyway, we've had a look at plenty of pictures of models. Here's some pictures of some beautiful men. And if I'm right in saying this, JahSper, is that you in the back left corner? Just at the top, just there. Let's zoom right in on him.
Are you as tall as people think? How tall are you, JahSper?
Sorry?
How tall are
catch
you?
it.
How tall are you?
1.8 meters.
6 foot.
I don't.
Okay. In
I
some
don't know
pictures, you look
exactly
like you tower over everybody else around you.
No. I'm a standard guy. I'm a standard.
Standard is 6 foot. Now I'm sad.
Yeah. Don't worry, you tower over Mickey.
Most people do. It's not hard. Well, thank you
This
very
was
much,
the place of the
JahSper.
tournament. Yeah.
Obviously, we've asked you about next year. We've asked you about events that you're attending in the future and everything like that. Is there any last words you want to say about the Italian national event? About anything coming up in Italy or anything else before we move on to some of the other events that we've had over the weekend?
Well, I don't know if we are planning some other tournaments because we normally if you go on the map, that's you can always see a spot in our place because once we finish a tournament we start planning the next one, and we normally have one tournament every month more or less in our club. And obviously if you want to come, if you want to join us, you are always welcome. Everybody is always welcome to come and join us, but normally the tournaments in our club, they are small and not that competitive. About bigger tournaments, there is nothing going on right now. We are thinking about doing something maybe end of August or September, because we have another event, because our club is about many different aspects of playing. So it's not only Song Glass and Fires, also board games and also some other different kind of things which nothing to do with board games. And so when we do events, we try to put many different things together. And sometimes our events are the date they are quite strict. But right now we don't know, but maybe we'll update you, and you can always find our events on Stats. We put all of them on Stats. And I don't know, maybe we will probably do another national events next year. As we said before, we hope to get to more than 25 players. I hope to double this number, maybe. Some other international players will join us, which would be amazing. And I think that's it. I wanted to thank everybody from joining the tournament, especially the 4 international guys, which they took a flight to come to Italy. And I mean, as we said before, it's also a matter of money, because if you have to go to a tournament near your home, maybe you spend 5 or 10 euros on gas and the enrollment fee. But if you have to travel longer with planes or with trains, cars in a long distance, you also have to spend money. And you spend money for a hobby that you really like to do. And I had a great moment on Saturday with everybody in the group. So both the Italians and the international players. So the Spanish guys and Philippe from France, who is one of the TOs from the national event in France. So I really want to thank you too. And I think we are in a great spot right now for this game. Even the balance is pretty good. Players want to meet each other. COVID seems to be getting better. I mean, the situation seems to getting better. We don't say that loud. We don't say that too loud because we never know. But yeah, I think we are in a very good spot at the moment, and I hope to see the community grow. And also, I want to thank Simon and Robert Fulkerson, because without their support, it's not easy to have such good events. Also, they are believing in us now, and by us I mean Europe, not only Italy, of course, because they will give support to you as well for the LGT and for the French and the German and probably the Spanish tournament. So that's a good way to start again with organized play and tournaments all around Europe. And I'm pretty happy about it, and I hope to see it getting bigger and bigger. And I hope to meet you guys in some tournaments, so in London, but also in some other tournaments all around Europe. It would be amazing, and then we will see about the World Cup next year.
Paul wanted to add one last thing onto that. When you said about the cost of travelling to international events, Paul Spurgeon says the most expensive cost for international events is the number of wife points needed for them.
That's true.
Not every president gets to bring the first lady along to events with them.
Yeah. I was saying that you have to convince your wives to play with you guys.
Oh God!
If you manage to convince your wife and your children, you will have the whole family playing, and so
It's
to
a
be
family holiday.
much more. But that will be much more expensive. Trust me.
Well, thanks a huge amount there, Danny, for your time today. You're welcome to join us, of course.
Guys.
I know you've got some time left, where we'll talk about some other events that happened. A specific one, which is a not Italian nationals big, but pretty big in the US. It's the biggest regional event that we've seen so far in the run-up to the US national qualifiers, which was the Gamers Haven national qualifier with Sunday Slaughter at the Gamers Haven event in Ohio. Gamers Haven shop. And this went to Datalink, who I believe is here in chat today, or certainly has been, Charles Phillips, who won it with Targaryens. There we go. You must be pretty happy with that one, Danny.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good day to be a Targ player, or a good weekend to be a Targ player, which is actually really funny because those of you who looked at the stats before, Targs have actually dropped down into fourth place overall. So Targs overall weren't doing that well over the weekend, but good players with Targs were winning events, which is a good start, I think. This event had two undefeated players. Evan was the initial undefeated player. His game actually finished first. So I was following along, and I was refreshing the page and was like, "Oh, Evan's probably going to win then." And then Charles took a win for a total of 4 crushings, which is pretty good. I think 2 of them were wipeouts as well. So we went pretty hard and just tried to kill everyone. So yeah,
with Targaryen.
I know, right? Targaryens. Now I did say we'd see a lot of Baratheons here. 29% Baratheon entry. That's pretty big.
Popular as ever,
Yeah.
like Barras were popular when they weren't good, and Barras are now viable. Like they're very viable. They're very in there in the discussion that you can win with them. You can win an event with them, and that was something that they never used to have. And yet they maintained a huge popularity. And so now that they are viable, we're seeing them as just one of the standout, most popular factions that get used. They regularly, every month when I look and congregate all the stats, they have the most submissions of all factions, basically month on month on month. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I'm never surprised to see a high Barra turnout.
Targaryen again posting a very strong win rate overall. A relatively small sample of games there, non-mirrors, only 6. But Stark surprisingly doing fairly well in this event. It could be it's like a stark mirror of what we saw in Italy, where the Starks were well represented but did badly. They're now well represented but doing well, and it's in fact the Greyjoys who are on the receiving end of the sadness stick over at this event. What surprises me,
which I think is a good thing, because you see, Greyjoy did pretty well in Italy before Victorian,
mm-hmm.
and Starks didn't do great, but here it was the opposite. So that, I think, this means the factions are pretty balanced right now, and so it's a matter of how good you are and also maybe a little bit of luck with pairings. With I think maybe a little bit of luck is always important to win tournament, and I'm saying that as a person who has won several tournaments. If you don't get a little bit of luck with pairings and with dice, it can be harder. But still, the player skill is really important right now, and you can see this from these tournaments. I think that's my idea.
Yeah. No,
I think more than ever, an understanding of what's popular and what lists will appear in local tournaments to you, and what players there are to look out for, because there is so much more balance right now than there has been in the past. I think that the game really has a much longer list of lists that you need to be scared of commanders that you need to consider, of factions that you need to be aware of as like real contenders to win any event. Players need to take much more account of what players are strong in their area, what players like, what factions they might play, what lists they might bring, and start to really adapt to more of their local conditions. Whereas in the past, I feel that really you needed to know what the big meta defining lists were. You needed to know, like, this is Othel, this is Mance, this is this is Mother of Dragons, this is a Rob Stark list with high activations or something like that. Depending on how far back we go, what we're looking at. There have been lists that previously they just defined the game. They defined the competitive sphere, and no matter who played them, you needed to be ready for them. You needed to be aware of them, and you needed to be built in a way and prepared in a way that you could face this list. Whereas now, I think you have to be much more selective. There is much wider range of things, and they are all looking to win in very different mindsets and different ways. It creates a much more interesting game, and you need to be much more aware of what players might be entering, what factions and play styles they like, and how that will match up. And I think that creates such an interesting environment. Creates so much more turmoil. It's one of the reasons why we see factions and commanders and the ranking order changing on a week by week basis. Their absolute positions keep swapping, but their overall ranks, they're barely changing. They're all in there around plus 20, plus 30 for all the good factions, which just says there's no difference between these things, right? They're all just in there in the mix, and we just see rises and falls over a week's monthly period based on just like recent information, recent tournaments, recent success. But yeah, it's I think that I really agree with what you said earlier, Danny, which is the game is in the best competitive shape that it's ever been.
Yep. Definitely. Interesting. So Data said in chat there, for him, what was the most interesting thing was that the last table, the last game of the event to decide the winner of this particular one was in fact a Lannister versus his Targaryens. And it was a Lannister who had used Adam and had gone 3-0 with it, which is, hey, look, Zamlor is a name I am remembered of in 1.6. I swear I remember that name doing fairly well back in the 1.6 days, pre-2021. But yeah, he goes going 3-0 with Lannisters, and then failing at the final hurdle, but still making it that far with Lannisters, I think is very strong. Interestingly, he went for the Gregor Clegane list, the only time he didn't go for his Adam list, and it was a loss. Maybe it was a list he thought he teched well into it that perhaps didn't work. But yeah, so the game really is in a good spot. Even the worst factions in the game now have people who will, let's talk about Wat for a second, who will champion them and will play them until death, and that can pull down results. So enjoy the game right now, basically. That doesn't mean Lannisters don't need a buff. Give them a little bit of a buff. But yeah, enjoy the game right now. There's a lot to be said of it. But yeah, obviously, congratulations to Datelink for picking up for the slot, and I believe because it was a 24-man event in the end, that you would have got Datalink getting a spot, Bassett or Evan getting a slot as well. Bob's already got one, I believe. So Zamlaw might get one as well. Is it 4 that they do? If it's
They
above,
do 4.
yeah,
They do
4.
4.
So
I believe they pass on down as long as on the day the person chooses not to take it. I
yeah,
think maybe. So there
I think
seems to be some kind of report around
Bob's
that.
already got one, and Chris has already turned his down. I think because he can't make it. So I think it goes down to Rex Racer as well. So yeah, hopefully those people can all make it to nationals. That moves us to something in the region of 20 players qualified for nationals. I'm sure there's a list somewhere which I can get one of the many players in the US who's been trying to keep on top of that. Make sure that they tell us for next week, if you wouldn't mind. I think it's Gruce. I'm pretty sure it's Gruce. It was following it along before. Gruce, go and update that list and tell us because you're fairly reliable and useful. If it wasn't Gruce, I apologise, but also you do it and tell us. Because it'd be interesting to know how many people have actually qualified for nationals so far. Yours got passed down as well, Datalink. Have you thought about not moving? Oh no, wait, hang on. It's probably not your choice. It's probably the other half.
Not to put too much pressure on him, but Datalink has also been invited to the Invitational based on this 24-man win. We will see whether or not it fits with his move. He's put himself in the maybe category. I'll see whether or not I can convince him. There is another US player who has been in the maybe category for quite a while, and hopefully by next week I'll tell you that he is in the absolute yes category, and we will have a US entrant into the Invitational. Yeah, that one's been pending for quite a while, and I really hope to be able to say that that's a yes. No surprises, or no hints on the surprise. You'll have to wait till next week.
Good stuff. All right then. So there was another event which I do want to bring a bit of a special mention to, which was a small event happening in Mississauga, Ontario, Canada. But the reason I want to bring this event to light, it is the first event physically that not just our big man Bruce was at, Craig, but also the Canadian Heroes World group among them. So N-Line, Ariakas, who is a massive friend of us and the channel, and that whole basically Ontario group getting together and playing games. This is the first event that they've been able to play since COVID, which is massive. It's absolutely massive. They managed to get out there and play a tournament. Bruce, he sent us a message on Friday, and it might not seem important, but he said in 2.5 hours I'll be playing in my first in-person tournament for over 2 years. And this is someone who has played the game a lot, has been following the game a lot. If you haven't following his posts online, and I think it is so great to see a community finally get to restart after such a long wait. The event, Richard pulled it down. N-Line, very strong player. He pulled it down with his Lannisters. Abiscus Jordan was in a very good spot in going into the final round.
5 players, 3-1.
Yeah. Jordan was actually in the lead going into the final round, and it was Craig who beat him. He was actually the only undefeated player in the last round. But Abiscus was beaten by Craig to put it into a 5-way tie. 2-way tie if you only count secondaries, so it went to unit destroyed points. But which is always sad to lose on unit destroyed, so Abiscus deserves just as much credit as N-Line, I think. Another Targaryen player who nearly won an event. They breed.
Nearly's not quite. Interesting just how many there are some commanders there that aren't identical, so I can only assume that there aren't any actual list requirements, that this is single list format or single commander format, and yet there are a huge number of commanders that are repeated. JahSper just taking home a double Khal Drogo win. I think maybe the only thing I have to say about the current balance is that we're seeing a large propensity of people moving towards. I think the thing is that actually maybe the commanders are shaping and defining the list structure in such a way that that the players are finding it hard to really come up with a second list or really come up with a second viable kind of difference maker with another commander. Whether or not that's because the balance and power level between commanders are too large, or a commander is too defining of the most efficient way to play a faction, is really maybe an interesting discussion for another time. For yourself, Danny, have you played, shall we say, in a competitive sense, in a tournament sense, do you really see yourself playing double Khal Drogo, just like a lot, shall we say, or is it always a consideration? Are there other commanders that you think are viable, or do you feel that he is too defining of the way you personally are playing Targaryens, the way you personally are building Targaryen lists, that you're finding yourself hard to break away from him?
Yeah, I was saying before the list with 9 activations. Drogo, it wasn't part of the idea of that list. Also, I don't love Drogo in veterans, but it was my only choice. I didn't have anything else to put there because I wanted to have those units. So in this case, I didn't start with the commander. I start with the idea of what I wanted to do with that list. And at the end, Drogo was the only option I had, because the only other I have units plus Jorah, and 2 infantry units. They already have an attachment. The only choice was to put my commander in the veterans. I didn't have any other choice, and the only option was Drogo. Being said that, I think Drogo is strong, but I don't, as we were saying before, some people in Italy think he's OP. I don't think so. I mean, he's a good commander, of course, but he's not OP. I don't think he's OP. Maybe Targaryens, they have a problem with internal balance with commanders, because we know Belwas, which is unplayable, and we know about that, but everything else is okay, but it's not that good. I mean, Daenerys, the 2 versions are both interesting, but no, I don't like playing with dragons. I don't love the dragons playstyle, because it feels like your opponent will always complain about it.
Yeah.
It feels I don't love to play with them. That's also why I didn't play dragons in the last tournament. But if you don't play dragons, maybe okay. Obviously, you don't need Matter of Dragon as a commander, so it's just out of the picture. And also maybe Queen of Meereen. Yeah, Queen of Meereen. I think she's pretty strong, and also Grey Worm. I really like Grey Worm too. But at the end, they don't match my playstyle, so I want, most of the time I want to have my commander on a cavalry. And I think as a Dothraki player, you need to have maybe something more to go with. I hoped before the Heroes 3 came out, I hope to have some more. I hope to have the Blood Riders as commanders too.
It'd be interesting if
yeah, and maybe some rules that
the cavalry options for the Targaryens were expanded in some kind of way. Just I think Jorah also being that very significant case of him being that 3-point solo, such an influential and important part of their list building, important part of kind of key combos with the veterans, key combos with other pieces that you have. It really minimizes his chance to be played, and so you're left with this single cavalry commander, which isn't different to other factions. Only Brynden Tully for the Starks, single cavalry commander. Now Night's Watch have mounted Brynden. Sorry, is it Brynden?
Yeah, mounted Brynden.
Yeah, Brynden Stark. Brynden?
No, Benjen.
What's his name?
Benjen, yes.
Benjen. There we go.
Gosh,
Nearly there. Mounted Benjen, being their new cavalry commander edition. So they're really, the list of cavalry commanders is very small, but Targaryens are such a cavalry-defined faction that you feel that they should have more options. You know, they came with 2 in their initial starting set, and no more have come out since. And so, you know, yeah, I think that it's interesting. I think that Khal Drogo is an incredibly polarizing piece, just because Assassinate Expert Duelist is such a polarizing ability. In the same way that Dragons 2 are such a polarizing unit, the way that they can kind of they still circumnavigate certain rules. They still cause wounds without your opponent ever managing to roll dice or kind of interact with it in any way. And people are very adverse to that lack of interactivity, that they at least get to roll some dice before they take their models off the board. Seems to be a large part of what most people expect. Yeah, I think that it's interesting how popular Khal Drogo is right now, and how defining of the Targaryen faction he is. But like I say, you know, the conversation was just that we saw double Tyrion for the Lannisters. What else have we got? We got double Khal Drogo, double Stannis, technically using one of each type, so we can get away with it. But again, lower down the tournament, we see again the same Stannis, one of each type. Double Asher, double
Tyrion again.
Lot of doubles. Very, very interesting about
Double
the way that people
Drogos.
are approaching their list building in these tournaments.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a lot of, you know, and you can see that for a 13-player event to have 8 Khal Drogos while also only having 4 Targaryen players says everything, doesn't it? Every single player ran double Drogo. To have 3 Lannister players and to have 6 Tyrions is every single player running double Tyrion. Actually, no, there were actually 4 Lannister players, to be fair. I didn't see the last one. But, you know, that's still the majority Tyrion. That is sad in a way. I mean, it's a good thing in some ways. It's also sad in others, especially when we're talking cavalry commanders. When you've only got 1, it's understandable. You're talking infantry commanders and you're only picking 1. That's a different case. That's, you know, only having 1 to choose from is different, whereas actively only really picking 1 is probably not great. All right then.
I also think. Have you seen the box for the new Baratheon hero boxes? We have seen what looks like a Stannis on a horse. So yeah. I think my idea, and this is many people's idea, that everybody at a cavalry commander.
Just one.
Exception of Free Folk and Greyjoy. Everybody else will get 1. And our question was, what about Newsrods? Are we getting a cavalry commander with Newsrods? Because that would open a new world of possibilities.
Not a faction, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, but obviously when I think about Newsrods, I think using them in other factions. So about
yeah, I mean, a neutral cavalry commander would be incredibly impactful on the game, especially if he's strong, right? That would double the cavalry commanders in every other faction. Effectively, you know, it would give Targaryens another option. It would give every other faction an option. Those who do already have 1 would gain their first. It would be very interesting. It would open the game up. I think that there's something to be said for once upon a time we had NCU commanders. I don't mourn their loss, but one of the interesting things that an NCU commander allowed was it allowed a full cavalry army without having a cavalry commander. It allowed you to field 100% cavalry units and have your commander not attached to any of them. But as long as most factions must have at least 1 infantry attachment in their commander, they therefore must have an infantry unit. And it does, it does have a slightly limiting effect on some of, even the more thematic, never mind competitive, has a limiting effect on some of the more thematic lists that you can field because of that. Not that I ever say that my double Flayed Men, double Knights of Castle Rock list was thematic. It was just pure to the face brutality, but it was enjoyable for me to play.
And nobody else. Talking of cavalry, just so I don't know if people have seen these yet. We had these delivered in the UK, imported, but we saw some people have bear riders last weekend at War on the Wall. But in case people haven't seen them, there's the models for the bear riders. They're quite nice. I know that these have been seen before, and we know Carlo's take on unboxing videos. Yeah, there's some models of the bear riders. Which, yeah, they look pretty cool. I can't wait to paint those up. 2024.
I mean, there is some... Go on, Danny.
Are we getting a commander on a horse?
On a bear?
On a chariot?
On a giant bear. On a white bear. We call him Varamir. There we go, done. Rumour has been spread.
Do you think Varamir will be a commander?
I haven't got a fucking clue, Carlo. He might be. He might be because he looks...
We don't have a content list for his box, right?
No. We can guess he's going to come with him on his bear because the art is him on his bear, his shadow cat, his eagle, and the 3 wolves. How they will make that into one base, multiple bases, whatever, we will see in due course. I'm sure. But yeah, he may be a commander. I can hope. I really hope that he's not. Maybe he will be. He's not a commander box, and we saw Mother of Dragons as the only kind of like commander box that wasn't called a heroes box, right? Every other heroes box had a commander in it, except if you're Targaryen Heroes 2, which is the saddest hero box you can possibly imagine, because it doesn't have any commanders in it. Which I still don't understand why they did that, but oh well. Right, anyway, I have some other images I'm going to show you, and these are incredibly special. This will be the last segment for today before we round up.
Just quickly, because people are talking about it in the chat, before we leave tournaments, it is worth mentioning that long-time UK tournament scene, Psycho Steve, did take a 12-man tournament win with neutrals. Very impressive, showing that he's not just a tully wanker, as the Just Play guys like to call him.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, impressive. I mean, speaking of which, Tom Tyler has made it to the final of the TTS Invitational with neutrals. I think we possibly knew about that during. I forget whether or not we knew last week. It was going on during last week. He is in the finals, which is against Mickey. I did draw the mode. I didn't actually tell you guys, by the way. The game mode is up. Hopefully, Mickey and Tom will stream that one, and we'll have ourselves a TTS finalist. But
that'll be tomorrow, by the way.
Tom can get the time off. Tom will already qualify, whether he wins or not, for the LGT Invitational, as Mickey already has, since signing up for this event, qualified. So the place will hand down to second place. Hopefully Tom can get the time off and confirm his spot soon. Not putting too much pressure on him.
So we'll be playing Dance of Dragons tomorrow. Neutrals versus Free Folk. Right. Yes. So we will go through future events in a second, but this next piece, I've actually been sitting on this for a little while. I got sent pictures of the work in process by, and I'm going to just give him his name now, Lucas Aurelius. Now, for those of you who are aware of Lucas Aurelius, you've probably heard me talk about him before and show me some of his work on here before. He is a very good painter, and Carlo hasn't rated anything 0 today yet. So we've got a real special treat.
I managed to avoid the armies. The armies never got a rating.
There's going to be a very special one here for you, Carlo. Look at those lovely Stark Outriders with Mr. Tully himself at the head. Now, you're not allowed to give this rating just yet, Carlo. There is a special treat in store for you as we continue through these pictures. This is his almost fully customized unit of Stark Outriders at this point. Very little of the base
I
models
would,
remain.
I'll just say I'm super impressed by the very realistic and very individualized color paint horse patterning.
Mhm.
The horse patterning is very good. The Palomino, is it, where you get that brown and white,
Mhm.
plus that grey pebble dash. And I've actually seen Brendan has a horse. I don't even know if that's like a real coloring where he's big bits of white, big bits of grey, but the white is also grey pebble dashed. Oh, beautiful stuff.
So you mean this boy right here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder whether or not that's a real horse coloring. I can guess it probably is. I'm sure you get all sorts of good stuff. Oh, or is it actually just blood? Am I mistaken?
No. So there is black. He's got the black pebble dash on him as well.
Okay.
But then there is also blood, and I just want to point out this knee. Let's zoom right in on this knee. When I looked at this, I was like, "That's pretty good," and then I looked again and was like, "That actually is incredibly good blood splattering. Like you can actually believe that that's semi-real."
And Brendan with a lovely little Knights of the not Knights, a White Lion axe.
White
I'm gonna
Lion
go with
axe. Yeah.
White Lion
I think
axe version. Love a bit of Warhammer Fantasy in my Song of Ice and Fire conversions.
So this is Brendan here. Again, lovely, trampling on the Lannister banner. Oh God, this is like my favourite thing in the world. And I did not do this. Lucas Aurelius did this and sent me this picture. He actually said, "Does that Lannister model look a little bit like Carlo?" And Doug says in chat, "Is that Carlo being beheaded?" It actually is Carlo being beheaded. He tried to paint him up to look like Carlo.
He's even got my tooth gap.
Yeah, exactly. It's great. It's absolutely fantastic. So Carlo, what are you going to give this lovely model and the unit of Outriders, of course?
0 out of 10. 0 out of 10. Lovely free hand on the back of Tully's cape as well. Really subtle painting. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the Lannister beheading almost did it for me, but it's still a 0. Still a 0 again.
Dan in chat says it's a 10. Which I think that deserves a 10 from me as well. Not like my rating means nothing here anyway, but any time Carlo gets beheaded on a nice miniature, God, you gotta love it. Well, no, but thank you very much, Lucas Aurelius. Wow, Weasel giving him a 0.5 out of 10. High praise from Weasel. So that will end our content for today at least. Let's have a little look at the tournaments running this weekend because I'm going to guess, Carlo.
Can I just super quickly? I just want to mention how little newsworthy Mickey has decided it is that starters and Golden Company crossbowmen were released in the UK this week, and he literally couldn't even be bothered to mention it.
No, I mean, yeah, I should probably say that. There's your news. They're in the wild in the UK. Like, you know how little newsworthy I thought this was, and this is actually pretty damning. We actually heard from the official, the not official people, but the Song of Ice and Fire Miniatures Facebook page put out a post this week, and they've advertised a new thing, right? They advertised a new release come out. You're going to be blown away by the new releases. It's this short video that they've put together for the Battlefront calls for aid. Oh look, it's the images. Oops, let's get rid of that. It's the images for the hero boxes, slightly animated. Love it. So buy your Hero Box 3 because they're released now.
Have they just been released in the US or?
Yes.
Yeah, that is then now released in the US.
Yes.
Okay.
And what I actually thought was quite interesting is someone said, "Nice video. It's a pity you publish such info for only US premiere though. In Europe, we've had them since the end of March." To which their response was, English releases used to be global, but due to ongoing issues in global shipping, in the past few years, locations get their sets at different times. We needed to choose a date to make announcements, so we choose to announce units when they reach the Asmodee store. He forgot the Asmodee US store, because they've been on the Asmodee UK store for some time. So, yeah, I've given up trying to point out what Simon say anymore, because every time they release anything, it seems to just dig a hole. Anyway, yeah, they've been leaked everywhere else, says Dan. They've not actually been released everywhere else. They've just been leaked. But yeah, the hero boxes obviously been out in the US, which is great. The overall,
They were used in the Sunday Slaughter tournament, right?
yeah, they were,
Yeah, they were.
a nationals event, which
Yeah.
you know, technically they'd released the day before. So I guess they were legal, I guess, or I don't know. Yeah, Stark starters.
Yeah, I'm with you, Nathan. Which is if they put out one of these like a month before a box came out or something like that, then I would be pretty hyped for that video. But a video of some models which were already released, unfortunately, too little, too late. But I mean, I guess maybe it's for the people much less involved. For some people, they won't know that they're out. They won't know that they're coming. You have to understand that the super involved community isn't always their target audience. But we just wish it was. We wish it was.
We really do.
Yeah, that's something when we think about it. If we think about it, Simon didn't do this kind of stuff for a long time. I mean, they haven't done it for a long time, right? The game is pretty new, and also, they are pretty good with board games. Like they are famous for Zombicide and Blood Rage and many other games like that. But distribution is very different when you work in these different kind of things.
Continuous release cycle as opposed to like a one and done kind of game, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty different. And I used to work in logistics a couple of years ago, and I know that it's completely different to manage different kind of stuff, and so yeah, we gotta be patient. And sorry guys, being said so, I gotta say farewell to you because I gotta go, and I will keep on watching you maybe on my smartphone. Okay, so it's been a pleasure for me, and we'll chat again.
Congratulations again on your win, Danny.
Thank you.
I really, like I say, I really hope that you and we and the community find out more information about the hopefully upcoming World Championship, and I personally hope I'll see you at the LGT, and then hopefully I'll see you at the World Championships too one day.
Hey,
I'm gonna be at the LGT for sure. I already booked the plane and also the lodge, everything. So we will for sure meet in London in September. Okay.
I really hope I get to play you, Danny, in the Invitational on the Friday. Got to try and get myself a reason for you to have a shave on Friday night. So.
Well, maybe it will be the opposite,
Maybe. All right, bud. Take it easy.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
So, Carlo, yeah, I said Carlo was about to say Carlo might randomly disappear for a second, but I'll bring him back. Don't worry, he's here. He's not gone forever.
Because obviously, technology geniuses over here.
It's Discord streaming, man. It's when people turn cameras off, their pace in the thing changes, and I haven't got it set up to automatically do it because I can't be bothered or can't do it because I'm an idiot. Right. Anyway.
New intro when?
New intro when? Did you not see the new intro today?
I did.
See, anyone who didn't know there was a new intro, there is a new intro. I kind of cheated. It's not fully new. So anyone who's like, oh my god, you lied to us, it's not really a new intro. It is a new intro, but it's not a finished new intro. I ended up going for a 5-hour walk yesterday before rearranging rooms. And I was not in a mood to finish it, unfortunately. Anyway, future tournaments. Where would we be without us going through a list of... Carlo, without looking, how many future tournaments do you think they're going to be in the next week?
7.
7. Right. Okay. 7 seems a pretty good bet. It seems it's nearly always 7. So what have we got? We've got... happening on Thursday. Oh, interesting.
I'm going to go with 2 in Poland.
All right. Calm down. You're probably right, actually. Happening on Thursday this week, interesting day to do it, is an event happening in Montpellier, France. Great. Love it. I love how it's called Tourney Paints and Games, as in I'm assuming that they're painting as well as playing games. If they are, brilliant. If you're watching, send us photos of what you've painted. That'll be awesome. There's an event happening it'll be the Saturday and Sunday in New Zealand, in Auckland. Fantastic. We haven't seen a New Zealand event come up in a while, so it's really good to see an event happening in New Zealand.
Hadn't even noticed the little dot.
Yeah.
But there we go. Now we're going to look for it. I see it.
Yeah. We've got the Battle of Harrenhal, an event happening in Russia. I've been talking a little bit with the Russian community, and they're saying they're still playing games. They're still looking to try and get things done, and they are trying to hopefully run a national event in Russia as well, which is fantastic to hear, of course, with everything still going on in that area of the world. The next one up, we've got the Great Tourney of the Hand, a event happening in Germany, in Wien? Austria? No, is it Austria? Austria. Wien is the Austrian for Vienna, I believe. If I'm not talking out my arsehole. I mean, I do talk out my arsehole a lot, right?
Just for everybody, this is Dan. Yeah. This is Dan's favorite part of the show. While Mickey scrapes around to pronounce things wrong, and so we can't possibly get rid of it.
Yeah, exactly. It is his favorite part. So this is on that street there, which I'm not even going to try and pronounce, in Vienna, Austria. So that brings us to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We come to our first Polish event. We're only on 1 so far. This happening in Warsaw in Poland, A Dream of Spring. Fantastic. We've got one happening in Madrid in Spain. Kingdom War Games, which I think they've run events there before.
I believe Kingdom are one of the major drivers of the Clash of Regions, their big national event, which brought together loads of stores. They definitely participated in that, and I think that they were the instigators of that. So that's great to see them running another event.
Doug was saying that they had the first local event in Aberdeen last week, yesterday, in fact, and he got 6 players with 6 different factions, which is great to hear.
Yeah,
from Doug.
And I actually just noticed it before, and I was having a look at it. Doug also took a win with neutrals.
Well done, Doug. It's good to see little communities springing up, isn't it? The next event we've got happening on the Saturday Sunday is the Imogen Barracks Tabletop Gaming Club ELO event, which is also the charity event run by Scabman. He did ask me to give you some last updates for this. He sent me some information. So the charity event is happening on the Saturday. It's technically this 24-hour event that he's been planning for a long time. That kind of got delayed, got shifted around, and got moved because of illnesses and COVID. It's finally happening this weekend, and it's got 8 players playing an ELO event, and £310 has been raised so far, which is fantastic.
Brilliant.
There is stuff up for grabs, including a ticket for the London Grand Tournament, which is great. And also, apparently, Tim Whitney has been painting some models as a potential prize. Wow. So if you like some well-painted models, enter the raffle that they're doing. So yeah, that's Imogen Barracks happening this weekend. I really hope it goes really well for Scabman, and I really hope he raises a little bit more money for charity as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe there are 3 charities available, two veteran charities, and he added, I believe, a Ukrainian appeal charity more recently. So you get to choose which one of those 3 that you want to make your donation out to. So if any of those really strike a chord with you, if you want to give support for what he's trying to do there, I'm sure it'll be really, really appreciated. And whether or not you're looking to kind of take something away from that raffle or not, there's been a lot of support, and it's really, really good that he's running this event to kind of use Song in a positive mindset and positive way, because I know that it's a large part of his life and his kind of and the way he interacts with the community is very positive for him. So it's really good for him to be able to give something back to the community in that kind of way. And really interesting and interesting take on what is, something that we normally just discuss in terms of competitiveness and tournaments winnings and players and what the game can do for you, but what can the game kind of do for the wider community is a really interesting way to look at it.
Definitely. The factions have been locked, and you'll notice
that's a big Greyjoy entry.
There's three of the 8 players playing Greyjoys, so that's awesome. 2 Baratheon. There's 1 Night's Watch. I'm going to throw that out there. That's 1 Night's Watch with 2 John commanders. Do you think that's?
I would bet a lot of money on that being Scadman himself.
Oh look! Is he with Double John? It always is. He loves his Double John, doesn't he? But yeah, no, fantastic. Fantastic to see players going along, and it's great to have a scene as well, and charity events, as Carlo said, always fantastic to see. Back to it then, we've got also happening in Pensacola, Florida. Summer is Coming. That's happening on the Saturday-Sunday, or probably Saturday through to Sunday. We've got the North Cal Regional Primer. This will be in Sacramento in California. That's also happening this weekend. And that's only got us through to Saturday starts. We're still going. We have got one happening in Goblin Trader in Mallorca. It's happening in Palma, in technically Spain. We've got another Russian event. I know nothing about this, and if I open this up, I'm guessing it's all in Russian. It is, but I know that they're playing Game of Thrones, Dark Wings, Dark Words, and Here We Stand. I know nothing else about that event.
Yeah, try not. Let me leave it, Mickey.
Yeah. But hey, it's good to see. It's good to see another event on there. And we also have. This is the last event. We will talk about it next week, but the next event of the En Route to the Citadel, the 3rd event for that series in France, is kicking off on TTS as of next Monday. This is the big En Route to the Citadel event series that has been run in France as kind of like a series of a mixture of solo and team events in a hope of creating a big community and having this big kind of like eventual showdown, if you will, between some of the best players of the game in France. Mixture of TTS and IRL stuff. So
it's like a even more ambitious version of the Spanish Clash of Regions. It's now spanning many tournaments running on different timescales, TTS tournaments as well as in-person tournaments. There does seem to be, I'm not hugely close to their community and what goes on, but there seems to be some divide in their community, similar to there was in like the global community for a while, a period of time, that there are differing opinions on whether or not TTS is like kind of a real representation of the game for them, whether or not the best TTS players are actually the best in-person players. And I think that they're really trying to come to a big showdown to prove one way or the other with that. So it'd be really interesting to see what kind of comes from that. But yeah, their En Route to the Citadels have been very well attended in the past, very competitive events, and the French scene have always come up with very interesting lists, very outside of what other kind of other players are fielding, very different results to what we've seen elsewhere. So always interesting.
Definitely. So that brings us a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 events happening over this week. 10 if you only count the weekend because of that French tournament happening on Thursday, and only 1 Polish event, surprisingly.
Yeah, I was wrong. I was wrong on every front.
I mean,
The polls have let me down, but everybody else has made me wildly underestimate. It's really good to see the game growing, flourishing, being strong all over the place. Interesting to see, another strong, well-known community in Hammerhead Games running their regional qualifier next week. I had, I've been in more close contact with Gamers Haven and the Sunday Slaughter guys. So that's been very much on my mind. Very much looking forward towards to that event. I haven't actually paid a huge amount of attention myself to the regionals coming after it, but I'm sure there are plenty more. I know that Mythicos will be running a second one. They've run one out of one of their stores, but they actually have two different stores. And I'm sure there are many more communities running them too. So yeah, it'd be interesting to really see what comes out of those.
Definitely. Also, it's going to sound really weird, this next sentence. It's nice to see that in some ways, your prediction of wrong being that there weren't two Polish events, because it means that actually we're seeing more communities on stats. As much as I love to see Polish events, it's, we've got an event happening in New Zealand, man. Like, what? There's it's a long time since we've seen a New Zealand event, if ever. So the fact that we're seeing smaller communities come out and start playing and start using the tools, and yeah, it's fantastic to see these communities rise. And it doesn't take a huge amount of work to make these communities into thriving hubs for the game, like we've seen with the House of Orcs, for example, and things like that in Italy, like JahSper's in here representing today. So yeah, fantastic stuff to see. Any last words, Carlo?
That we haven't actually mentioned in quite a while that there have been a whole range of new Patreons joining joining the Patreon community. I've been very busy and distracted with various tournaments and stuff like that, so I haven't even been as active on the Discord side of things, which is where most of the Patreon interaction goes on. But not all Patreons actually use Discord or use it regularly. Some of them are just YouTube watchers. Some of them are just users of the site. So to all the ones that are mostly YouTube watchers, I hope you're still enjoying the content. Thank you for signing up. Brilliant to have you with us. Absolutely join the Discord and kind of get involved in the conversations that go on there, the trolling, the memeing. Leak Teddy would have you know that the reason you pay for your Patreon is so that I can insult you. But only those who want to be insulted get insulted. I promise. But anyway, it's really, really good that the site and the community continue to grow in every aspect. Its user base, the tournament usage, but also the Patreons who help support the site and support kind of new features that come along. It's mostly them who cajole me into making things that they want done. They're the reason why, as I say, the flicker, the annoying flicker on your game submissions has hopefully gone away for you. They'll be the reason why your pages get improved, because when they come asking for features, that's when I really listen. And hopefully, after the US, I'll have a lot more time to work on the site again. I am quite busy, but I appreciate all the support. A Patreon only event contest, Carl, we did run one in the past, and it's something that I really should look at. It has been well received in the past, so I think probably we'll have a Patreon only tournament coming up sometime soon.
ELO, right? Just to mix it up, because we haven't done an ELO event
in a while. It can be. I think that ELO, interestingly, we started to see a few ELO events popping up here and there. I believe that you don't have to. ELO's popularity and its discussion has waned as a response to people believing that the game is far more balanced. And I think that is a positive thing. I'm not going to tell you that. I'm not going to tell you that you should be playing ELO format in every one of your events, that it's better. I do think that it has its limitations and it has its benefits. I do think that it will create a new and interesting tournament for you, but it was built in response to people becoming very tired and frustrated with the imbalance. Right? It looks to address that in a very direct way. it's interesting to note that this is an effect that is happening at all times on your personal ELO ranking. So if when you enter a tournament, you're suddenly thinking, if I want to do the best I can, I'm going to use the lowest rated thing in the game. If you are trying to raise your personal ranking, that is also what you should be doing, if that's what you believe your best chances of raising your ranking are. But, we're not going to go on for a wild tangent. I do still believe that ELO tournaments create a very interesting format. I do believe that it at least starts to mix things up. You start to see a lot less of double Drogo, double Mance. As much as we can discuss that we think that these things are very closely balanced against each other, there are still high tier and low tier commanders within each faction. There are still underperforming commanders. There are still things very rarely seen on the competitive scene. Very rarely utilized in tournaments, almost never winning. We're just very, very glad that nearly all factions have something that is winning right now. But that's not necessarily to say that every commander has a really fair, viable chance to win. So I do think that ELO, even in today's much, much more balanced environment, ELO still has a place for me. And actually, it has a much more interesting place, which is that it's not going to cause wild, huge multipliers anymore. What it's going to do is it's going to act much more as a tiebreaker, which is you both won all your games, but one person did it with a slightly harder commander. So just how low you go in the rankings is much more of a choice. The idea of ELO isn't supposed to be these commanders are banned. These commanders are going to win. You must field low-rated commanders. It's supposed to say all commanders are now they're all multiplied, they're all handicapped by their current performance, their recent performance, by their general strength. And so, I still think it has a place. I'm still glad that I created the format, and I still am very interested whenever I see it in use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fantastic. I guess we'll have to run an event soon then. And yeah, ELO's great. I like ELO. So, time to call it a day, I think. It's been another Monday. We've gone just over the 2-hour mark. We're getting good at trying to hold it to 2 hours now, I think.
Yeah. I got Mickey to promise it was only going to be an hour and a half today. So
I like how that I'm the one who talks so much during these Tourney Grounds that I have to limit the time. So, all right, guys. Thank you very much for joining us yet again. We'll be back next week. I don't know. Got anything planned for next week? I don't know. I might have something planned for next week. We'll see.
Some wild news might come up.
Yeah, hopefully. We haven't had any wild news, have we? We haven't done a reveal in too long, Carlo. We haven't done something crazy like going through a new box and gone, oh, look at all the shiny stuff. Anyway. I really hope anyone playing games this week has a good week. I really hope everyone enjoys their week completely. And we'll see you again next week.
Good luck.
Ready, aim, release!